we didn't get to talk about this yet, but you've been back from Honduras at the GraphX or one of their HQs. I think there's multiple. They've got multiple different countries. This is a big company. I didn't realize how large GraphX is, and not just because to sponsor the podcast and partner, but like really cool the videos that you were sharing going on there. So, I mean, share with us, like, what was that trip like?
So we've been working with GraphX Source since probably the beginning of COVID. At the time, they maybe only had 20 or 30 employees in Honduras. And they were kind of pivoting the business a little bit to full-time art staffing, right? They do a lot of a la carte stuff. They've got a team in Thailand doing digitizing. And so they made a position and a focus to really work on full-time staffing. And so, we were one of the early Printavo shops that decided to take that plunge and work through it with them. There's definitely early on with GraphX Source, like there were definitely growing pains because we're trying to figure stuff out our way. They've got different things their way. And I walk into Honduras. We, get picked up at the airport and they're pumping me up. They're like, wait till you see this. Just wait till you see this. Just wait till you see this. I'm like, okay. We get to one of the most beautiful buildings in Honduras. First of all, it's a, pretty poor country, but a beautiful, beautiful building, probably 7-story building. And we get up to the 6th floor and I don't know how big the I'm going to guess it was 10,000 square feet, maybe 7,000 square feet of just desks and people just buzzing away, just grinding on stuff. And it was really well lit, beautifully decorated, good energy in the room, people at each other's desks. And I just kind of stood there and took it in and I was like, whoa, wait, this is GraphX Source? The first thing we did is we sat down in the boardroom. I think it was Eduardo. He's like, I want to give you guys a presentation on how we've built this infrastructure. And he went through like this pyramid of leadership and how they train Maxwell's theories of like leadership, the book, like I think John Maxwell or whatever, and how they start artists at a certain point and they graduate to different levels. And there's juniors and seniors and account managers and people that just write SOPs. And then we learn they have the academy, and the academy is where people can actually pay to get trained, Adobe certified. And if they pass an entrance exam, they have a job at GraphX Source or a job at any other company in the world. And I just like took it and I was like, you four, Nick, Lucas, Brent, Rob, you built this? Like, we give them so much shit because they're hilarious. And they looked at it and they're like, they built this. Like, we put in the tools. They, like, the leaders that they've put in place there are incredible. And it was just this like, holy shit. I had this holy shit moment because it wasn't Nick or Brent or Lucas or Rob teaching me what they do. It was their leaders who English is a second language, but their English is freaking awesome. And they're teaching like what type of coaching and training. Like they've built a company rooted in education, fostering people, teaching processes, continuous improvements. And it was really just a beautiful symphony to watch, I think was the way I would describe it.
That's incredible. For those who don't know, Rob, who's one of the guys behind the scenes that is like a master, separations extraordinaire, and is training a lot of these artists, also can name any color, the Pantone. He can name the Pantone of any color that you show him.
Yeah, it's called Game of Pantones. We actually took a video of it. So me and Andy were there, Andy from Shirt Kong, and we did a whole day of content. We have tons of videos and pictures and
when's
stuff.
When's that coming out?
It's on my hard drive.
TBD.
But they even at the top floor, like they have an embroidery room, and we get calls from digitizers all the freaking time, right? We went into this embroidery room and they had like 4 embroidery machines and they had different brands, Berdens, Tajimas, whatever. And then they had a wall of every color of thread, Madeira, the different thread colors. And one of the things they did, and you could see the fire in their eyes and the passion where they're like, when we digitize, we sew out everything. And we actually give them a digitized, like a picture of the sew out because we want to optimize the sew so that the shop doesn't even have to do a sew out. And so I thought to myself, how often does our embroiderer always does a sew out? Like they always do one sew out first, right? And it's like, wait, if they didn't have to do one sew out before every job, that would save 7 to 10 minutes on every single job they do, just by having this company do it. And then they can do reductions. They can, decide where to do do thread breaks and things like that. And just the level of excellence, like they're thinking 3 steps ahead. Bruce, they even have a team of...
They do the sew outs. So is it just a room of like one hand, or like what?
Yeah, just a bunch of single heads. Yeah. So a lot of digitizing, some digitizing gets done in Honduras. A lot of it gets done in Thailand. And so they have 24-hour turnaround. And so they have 600 artists in Honduras, and then like maybe 300 to 400 in Thailand. So like if I put in a request for digitizing today, it gets digitized tonight in Thailand. And then they might sew it out in Thailand. They might sew it out in Honduras, but they'll sew it out right away. They'll snap a picture of it
overnight as well.
Overnight, because they're working on different hours, right? So like my team at GraphX Source, like Andrea and she'll put in the request for the overnight team to digitize in Thailand. They'll digitize, they'll get it back, they'll send a picture of it back in the morning to give to our team. We'll review, we can do whatever, we can go back and forth. And so they literally like have a 24-hour cycle to be able to get feedback in real time. And I didn't quite fathom that. And I was like, oh, that's different, right? In the way that they do it. So yeah, they'll actually do the sew outs. They have a team of engineers, Bruce. And so GraphX Source does a lot of staffing for companies they can't really talk about, like kind of under NDA, and we can guess maybe what they are. But they have like a whole fleet of artists that are just working for one company. Now there's some they can talk about like Nike and Callaway and things like that. But for confidentiality reasons, they just can't. And so they have a team of engineers that are just optimizing the process for the staffing for the employees. So if there's a repetitive task that's happening over and over and over again, the engineering team will study it and try to build tools for that business to speed it up.
Even just like scripts and
just scripts. And yeah, but even like web app stuff. So I'll give you an example. When we build a school, we have to do Arch name drops. We have to do name drops for athletes at scale. So if we have one school, 300 athletes, 10 products, be 4,000 mockups, right? And we have to prepare the DTF files for it. And we want a graphic that's ready for social media. So like we want, 4 or 5 different things. And so we spent a lot of time with them, did it manually. They studied it, built a bunch of tooling for us. And then now their artists can use some of the scripts that our teams have developed together, or like, things that can get DTF files ready with halftones and things like that. And it was just like, today on the NIL store, we have 18,000. So there's 180,000 designs. And they're able to do like thousands per day, based on some of the tooling and automation that they designed for us. Right. So, pretty neat in the way they operate.